Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Terrible Stories. I refused to take care of my partner's dog because they got it without asking me. I never thought a dog could become the central point of tension in my relationship. But that's exactly what happened when Alex came home one evening with a small, squirming bundle of fur in his arms. Meet Charlie, he said, grinning from ear to ear. I blinked at him. Charlie? Yes, isn't he adorable? Alex cooed, setting the tiny beagle puppy on the couch. Charlie immediately began exploring, sniffing my shoes, my bag, and my laptop. I froze. Wait, you bought a dog? Without asking me? Alex laughed nervously. Well, yeah, I thought it would be a nice surprise. You love dogs, right? I wanted to, I really did. But there was a problem. I had never agreed to adopt a dog with Alex, never signed up for the responsibilities, and certainly hadn't budgeted for vet bills, food, or late night walks. I I don't think this is okay, I said carefully. I mean, it's not about the dog itself. It's about making a decision like this without me. Alex's grin faltered. Come on, it's just a puppy. How bad can it be? I looked down at Charlie, who blinked at me with big, innocent eyes. My heart softened for a split second. But then I remembered that I already had a busy schedule, a full-time job, and no room in my life for a surprise responsibility of this magnitude. I'm not saying he's not cute, I said slowly, but I can't take care of him. I didn't agree to get a dog. Alex's face fell. But we're a couple. Isn't this like part of our life together? I shook my head. No. Part of our life together doesn't include unilateral decisions about long-term commitments like a pet. You should have asked me first. The tension in the room thickened as Charlie sat down, tilting his head at me, clearly sensing that something was off. I just thought you'd be happy, Alex muttered. I would be happy if you had asked me before buying him, I replied firmly. I'm not saying I hate dogs. I'm saying I can't take responsibility for one that I didn't agree to bring into our lives. Alex sighed and flopped onto the couch. Charlie crawled onto his lap, tail wagging. I stood there, feeling a mix of guilt, frustration, and disbelief. One small puppy had managed to create the first real rift in our relationship. I knew this was just the beginning of a long negotiation or a long fight over boundaries, responsibility, and respect. The next few days were tense. Alex seemed to oscillate between guilt and stubbornness, while I tried to maintain a firm boundary without making it a full-blown argument. Come on, Alex said one evening, leaning against the doorway as I cooked dinner. It's not like I'm asking you to adopt him forever. Just help out for a few days while I get settled at work. Please? I stirred the pasta, trying to keep my voice calm. Alex, that's exactly the problem. You're asking me to assume responsibility for a dog that I never agreed to take care of. Even a few days sets a precedent. But it's only temporary, he protested. I'm still learning and he needs attention. Feeding, walks, playtime. And that's my life you're talking about, I said, setting the wooden spoon down. I didn't sign up for dog ownership. I didn't agree to wake up in the middle of the night to comfort a puppy, take him to the vet, or deal with accidents on the carpet, he sighed. I thought you'd be excited. You love dogs. You even said we should get one together sometime. Yes, Alex, but that was sometime in the future, not right now. You went ahead and made a huge decision without consulting me. That's not love, it's presumptuous. He rubbed his temples. You're being really rigid. I'm being responsible, I corrected him, and fair. I can't commit to a pet that I didn't agree to bring into my life. He paused, looking genuinely frustrated. So, what? You're just going to leave me to handle it all alone? Yes, I said firmly. It's your choice to bring a dog into this relationship. You need to manage the consequences yourself. I will support you emotionally, but I will not be taking care of him. Charlie, sensing the tension, crawled over to my feet, whining softly. I bent down and scratched behind his ears, trying not to let my frustration seep into my touch. The puppy was innocent in all this. The problem was the decision that put him here without my consent. Alex looked at Charlie, then back at me, his jaw tight. You really mean that? I do, I replied. I won't be coerced into something I never agreed to. If you want a dog in our life, we need to figure this out together, but not like this. He left the kitchen, muttering under his breath, and I knew the next few weeks were going to test the limits of patience, communication, and compromise in our relationship. For the next week, the apartment felt like a battlefield, with Charlie at the center. Alex tried his best to handle the puppy, but he was clearly stressed. The dog was energetic, mischievous, and completely unaware of the invisible line that I had drawn. Chewed shoes, shredded newspapers, and early morning barking were just the tip of the iceberg. Each evening, I returned home to find chaos. Alex would be kneeling on the floor, trying to wrangle Charlie while muttering apologies for the mess. I'd take a deep breath and remind myself that the puppy wasn't the problem. It was the situation. "I can't believe you bought him without asking me," I said one night, watching Charlie gnaw on a chair leg. "This could have been avoided if we'd discussed it first." "I know," Alex said, running a hand through his hair. I wanted to surprise you. I thought it would make you happy." "It would have made me happy if it had been our decision," I said, frustration bubbling. "Not a surprise that puts all the responsibility on me, whether I want it or not." Alex didn't answer immediately. He just sat there, shoulders slumped, while Charlie rolled onto his back, wagging his tail. It was hard not to soften, but I reminded myself of the bigger issue: respect for boundaries. The days blurred together. Charlie's puppy energy, combined with Alex's inexperience, created a constant cycle of cleanup, reprimands, and apologies. I couldn't help noticing how the tension between us grew. Little disagreements erupted into arguments over feeding schedules, playtime, and even where Charlie should sleep. One morning, I woke to find Charlie had chewed through a corner of my work bag. That was the breaking point. "Alex," I said, holding up the ruined bag, "this is exactly why I said I can't take care of him. Things like this happen all the time when one person is left to manage a puppy without agreement from the other. I can't deal with this stress on top of my own responsibilities." Alex sighed, running a hand over his face. "I get it. I do. But what am I supposed to do? I can't just abandon him." "You need to figure out a plan that doesn't involve me taking care of him without consent," I said firmly. "Whether that's hiring a trainer, doggy daycare, or finding a new home, you have to handle it." Charlie whimpered at my feet, and I knelt down to scratch his ears. My heart ached for the little creature caught in the middle. But the principle remained. I would not assume a responsibility I hadn't agreed to, no matter how cute or innocent the puppy was. By the following week, the tension in the apartment had escalated into an almost tangible weight. Every time I walked through the living room, Charlie would run toward me, tail wagging, eager for attention that I wasn't willing to give beyond a brief pat. Alex followed, looking apologetic yet defensive. I really need you to help me with him for just an hour," Alex pleaded one evening, exhaustion written all over his face. "I've got work deadlines, and I can't manage both Charlie and my job right now." I took a deep breath, keeping my tone calm but firm. "Alex, I'm not your assistant. I didn't sign up for a dog. I will not take care of Charlie for you without agreement. He's your responsibility, not mine." Alex ran a hand through his hair. "But I thought you'd want to be involved. You love dogs." "I just assumed," I interrupted. "Alex, assumptions aren't agreements, and surprise puppies aren't gifts if they create stress and resentment. I love dogs, yes, but I didn't consent to having one in my life right now. Boundaries are important, and this boundary is non-negotiable." Alex looked at me for a long moment, his expression a mix of frustration and hurt. "I just wanted to share something with you. Something happy." "And I would have been happy if it had been a joint decision," I said. "You didn't share. You imposed. I'm not saying he's not cute or that I hate him. I'm saying I won't take on responsibilities that were never mine to begin with." Charlie, sensing the tension, whimpered and nudged my leg. I crouched down and petted him briefly, careful not to signal that I was taking responsibility. The little puppy tilted his head at me, confused by the emotional storm between his humans. "Maybe you need to consider professional help," I added. "Doggy daycare, a trainer, or even a temporary foster. That way he's cared for properly, and I don't have to be dragged into something I didn't agree to." Alex exhaled heavily, running a hand across his face. I guess you're right. I need to find a solution that doesn't involve forcing you into it." It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I reminded myself that standing firm on boundaries wasn't about being cruel, it was about mutual respect. If Alex wanted a dog in our lives, he had to do it responsibly, and that meant without unilateral decisions that impacted both our lives. Charlie, oblivious to the tension, climbed onto the couch, curling up beside Alex. I stepped back, letting them have their space while mentally preparing for the next challenge. Navigating a relationship where one partner's impulse could drastically affect both of our lives. Over the next few days, Alex threw himself into problem solving. I noticed him researching doggy daycares, trainers, and even temporary foster programs online. It was clear he realized he couldn't rely on me to handle Charlie, and slowly I began to see a shift in his approach. One evening, he came into the kitchen with a stack of pamphlets and a notepad. "I think I found a few options," he said, spreading them across the counter. "There's a daycare nearby that has great reviews, and a trainer who comes to the house. And I called a local foster program just in case I need a temporary solution while I get settled." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and lingering tension. "That's a good start. You need to make sure Charlie gets consistent care. You can't just drop him off here or expect me to step in." Alex exhaled, looking both relieved and overwhelmed. "I get it. I was selfish. I didn't think through the responsibility. I just wanted to surprise you, and now I see how badly I messed up." "I appreciate the acknowledgement," I said. "It's not about punishing you. It's about making sure we communicate and share responsibilities fairly." Charlie bounded over, sensing the calmer mood. He jumped onto Alex's lap and yipped happily. I smiled faintly. Even though this whole situation had been stressful, the puppy's innocence reminded me why people fall in love with dogs in the first place. Over the next few days, Alex visited a couple of daycares and met with a trainer. He took detailed notes, asking questions about schedules, training methods, and care routines. I watched from the sidelines, offering advice when he asked but refusing to take over any direct responsibility. By the end of the week, he had a clear plan. Charlie would attend daycare during work hours, and a trainer would come twice a week to ensure he learned basic obedience and socialization. If any emergencies arose, Alex would handle them himself. For the first time since Charlie arrived, our home felt manageable. I could coexist with the puppy without feeling cornered into a role I never agreed to. It was a small victory, but a significant one. Boundaries had been established, and Alex had finally taken responsibility for his choice. With daycare and a trainer lined up, the next challenge was establishing daily routines that didn't pull me into the dog's care. Alex set alarms for morning walks before work and evening playtime, and Charlie adjusted surprisingly quickly. The apartment, once chaotic with puppy energy and messes, started to feel calm and organized. One morning I was making coffee when Alex called out, "Charlie's ready for his walk. Do you want to join?" I shook my head. "I'm good. You handle him. I'll see you when you get back." He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yeah. Thanks for setting boundaries, by the way. I think it actually helped me realize how much responsibility this is." I smiled faintly. "Boundaries aren't about control, they're about respect. I'm glad you see that." Charlie yipped excitedly, tugging at his leash as Alex clipped him on. I watched them leave, feeling a surprising sense of relief. For the first time, it felt like Alex and I were operating as partners, without me being forced into a role I hadn't agreed to. That afternoon, I noticed how organized Alex had become. He set up a feeding schedule, stocked the apartment with chew toys, and even created a little corner for Charlie to sleep in. Each small step reinforced that he was committed to taking responsibility for his choice. Still, every once in a while, Charlie would look up at me with big, pleading eyes, and I had to remind myself that my care had limits. I could be kind and gentle, but the responsibility wasn't mine. By the end of the week, the routines were in place, and the apartment felt manageable again. I realized that standing firm on my boundaries had not only protected me, but had also encouraged Alex to grow into the responsibility he had taken on. Just as things seemed to settle, there were moments that tested my patience. Charlie, though adorable and well-behaved most of the time, was still a puppy with boundless energy. Toys ended up scattered across the living room, and once or twice he chewed on items he shouldn't have. One evening, Alex was on a video call for work, and Charlie began barking incessantly at a noise outside. I could see Alex's frustration building as he tried to calm the puppy while remaining professional. "Do you want me to take him for a quick walk?" I asked gently. Alex shook his head. "No, I've got this. I didn't expect him to be this energetic." I reminded myself to step back. This was his responsibility. I had already made it clear I wouldn't take care of Charlie, and stepping in now would blur the boundary we'd worked so hard to establish. The situation escalated when Charlie jumped onto Alex's desk mid-call, scattering papers and knocking over a cup of coffee. I bit back a sigh, resisting the urge to intervene. Alex froze, staring at the mess. Then he exhaled sharply and muttered, "Okay, I need to handle this." He picked up Charlie, set him down, and calmly guided him toward the door for a quick walk. Watching from the kitchen, I felt a mix of relief and pride. Alex was learning the hard way, but he was learning nonetheless. Each challenge reminded him of the responsibilities he had voluntarily taken on, and reinforced why I had set my boundaries from the start. Later that night, Alex approached me. "Thanks for not stepping in earlier," he said quietly. "I know it must have been tempting." I smiled. "It was, but it's important that you take responsibility for your choices. You'll be a better dog owner for it, and I'll respect the boundaries we agreed on." He nodded, and for the first time, I felt a sense of equilibrium returning to our home. Charlie was still a handful, but with clear routines and responsibilities, I could coexist without being pulled into a role I hadn't agreed to. As weeks went by, the balance we had found began to wobble again. Alex was doing his best, but the reality of caring for a dog was catching up with him. Late nights at work meant Charlie sometimes went too long without a walk. The mornings when Alex hit snooze left me listening to the sound of a restless dog pacing by the door. One Saturday, Alex had promised to take Charlie to the park. He had been hyping it up all week, how Charlie needed more socialization, how fresh air would help calm his energy. But when Saturday came, Alex was exhausted after a night out with friends. He lay in bed, groaning while Charlie whined and pawed at the door. I stood there staring at the dog, then at Alex. My frustration boiled over. "You promised you'd take him today," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "This is what I was afraid of when you brought him home without asking. He deserves better than this." Alex rubbed his eyes and sat up slowly. I know. Just give me an hour." "An hour? He's been waiting since last night." "He's not my responsibility, Alex. This is exactly why I said no in the first place." The tension between us snapped. Alex jumped out of bed, defensive. "I'm trying, okay? It's harder than I thought, but I am trying." I shook my head. "Trying isn't enough when there's another life depending on you. If you can't handle this, then maybe Charlie shouldn't be here." Silence filled the room. Alex's jaw tightened as he processed what I'd said. For the first time since this all began, he looked like he was actually considering the possibility that he couldn't keep up with the responsibility he'd chosen. Finally, he exhaled, shoulders slumping. "You're right. I've been selfish. I wanted a dog, but I didn't think it through. I thought I could just figure it out. But it's affecting you too, even though I promised it wouldn't." That admission was a turning point. Alex realized that his decision wasn't just about him anymore. Charlie needed consistency, care, and commitment, and Alex had to face the reality of whether he was truly ready to provide that without leaning on me. The next day, Alex sat me down at the kitchen table. Charlie was asleep at our feet, blissfully unaware of the storm of emotions swirling above him. Alex looked tired, but there was a certain determination in his eyes I hadn't seen before. "I've been thinking," he started. "I love Charlie, I really do. But love isn't enough if I can't give him what he needs. You didn't sign up for this, and I can't keep putting it on you, even unintentionally." I folded my arms, waiting. My heart ached for him, but I also felt relief that he was finally facing the truth. "I don't want to give him up," Alex continued, "but maybe that's what's best for him. A home with someone who can devote the time and attention he deserves." Hearing him say it out loud made the reality hit harder. For weeks, I had silently wished for exactly this moment. For Alex to realize that keeping Charlie wasn't sustainable. But now that it was happening, I couldn't help but feel sad. Charlie had become a part of our lives, innocent in all of this. "You don't have to decide right this second," I said softly, "but you need to be honest with yourself. He deserves more than half-hearted effort." Alex nodded, his face tight. "I know, and I'm not asking you to help me figure it out. This is mine to deal with." For the next few days, Alex made a noticeable effort. He took Charlie out more consistently, played with him, even researched trainers and dog walkers. But it was clear he was burning out fast. His job, his social life, and his natural tendency to procrastinate were colliding with the reality of pet ownership. One night, I overheard him on the phone with his sister, explaining everything. I wanted this so badly, but I didn't think about how it would affect her or Charlie. I don't know if I can keep doing it. By the end of that week, Alex admitted he had contacted a local rescue organization. They specialized in rehoming dogs in loving families. It broke his heart, but he knew it was the right choice. The day he made that call, he sat beside me on the couch, shoulders heavy. "I never should have put us in this position," he said quietly. "But thank you for standing your ground. If you hadn't, I might have kept going until it hurt all of us, even Charlie." The morning we drove Charlie to the rescue organization was one of the hardest days I'd experienced in a long time. Alex sat in the passenger seat with Charlie curled on his lap, stroking his ears with trembling fingers. The dog had no idea what was happening. He just looked out the window, tail wagging every so often, content as always. When we arrived, the staff greeted us warmly. They were kind, gentle, and clearly passionate about animals. They assured Alex that Charlie would be placed in a foster home immediately, and that they already had a list of potential adopters waiting for a dog like him. "He won't be here long," one of them said with a smile. "He's young, healthy, and sweet. Families will love him." Alex bent down to hug Charlie one last time. His eyes brimmed with tears as he whispered something into the dog's ear. I couldn't hear the words, but I could feel the weight of them. Letting go hurt him deeply, but there was also a quiet strength in the choice. On the drive home, the silence between us was heavy, but not angry. It was reflective, almost fragile. Finally, Alex spoke. "I feel like I failed him," he admitted. "You didn't fail him," I said firmly. "You made sure he'll have the life he deserves. That takes more love than holding on for the wrong reasons." Weeks later, Alex received an update from the rescue. Charlie had been adopted by a family with a big backyard, 2 kids who adored him, and another dog who had instantly become his playmate. The picture they sent showed Charlie bounding through the grass, tongue lolling happily. Alex smiled at the photo, his eyes misty but relieved. "He looks happy," he said. "He is happy," I replied. "And so are we, now that we can breathe again." In the end, Charlie taught us both a lesson we hadn't expected. For Alex, it was about responsibility and the weight of choices. For me, it was about boundaries, how protecting myself wasn't cruelty, but necessary for our relationship and for fairness to the dog. We didn't break up. In fact, we grew stronger. There was no more resentment between us, no silent expectations eating away at trust. We had faced something messy and emotional, but we had come out of it together, wiser and more aware of what we could and couldn't handle. As for Charlie, he wasn't ours anymore, but we knew he was exactly where he was supposed to be. And that knowledge, though bittersweet, gave us peace.